I love that I heard about 3 different versions of the doxology just now, all mingled together. And I love that no one planned for y'all to sing the verses of that last song. It just happened. God's grace is here, making things happen. We've been somber, and I want to make sure that we still hold a spirit of joy and of lightness here. So, tell me, let's just yell them out, the different characters of the Christmas story. I want to make sure we get them all. Donkey, yeah, donkey. We had the donkey last service and the children's service. We gave a very Disney version last time. Gabriel the angel, Joseph, Mary, wise men, shepherds, star. We had a star last time. She did a great job as a star.
Angels.
Lots of angels backing up Gabriel. Cows. No one said Rudolph yet. No one said Rudolph. Hey, no one also mentioned the Christmas prostitute. What?
Mary.
Not that one. That's not what I'm talking about. No. So someone zing her over there. No, the Christmas. This is a thing. Yeah, we did the Disney service before. This is like the real service. The story of the Christmas prostitute starts way back in the Old Testament in Exodus. Has anyone seen the movie yet? Not a single person has seen the movie. Man, that's pretty. Christian Bale must be a better Batman than Moses. But you know the story. You all know the story of Exodus, where Moses takes his people who were slaves, the Jews, and they cross the Red Sea and they get lost in the desert, as I would too. At the end of Exodus, little spoiler alert: Moses dies. He doesn't get into the Promised Land. He doesn't get into Israel. So who takes over? Joshua, good. Yeah, which is the same name as Jesus, just in a different language. Joshua, he takes over, and his first thing he does is he sends some spies into what we now call Israel to kind of get the lay of the land. And if you were a spy, you would want to go and get like the best news, so they go to the lobby of the brothel. Right? That seems to make some sense. And so they're listening around, probably kicking back a few, and they meet Rahab, the prostitute. And that's really all we know about her. At this time of the story, that's all we know about her. We find out that she's sympathetic to their plight because her people have been worshiping a God that's based on, if you do this, then you get this. Her people have been worshiping a God that's tied up in rules of success and more often failure and punishment, which her life has probably felt like a lot. And she has some hint somewhere in her heart that these 2 spies mean something more. Their God means something better. And so somehow she sees that insight. And so when the soldiers come to find the spies, Rahab the prostitute hides these 2 guys on the roof. And then they run back after the next morning, and they run back to Joshua. And he sends in the army. And we know the story of Jericho, where they walk around, they knock the building down. It's great. They save Rahab the prostitute and her whole family. And by the way, that little hike, I measured it out. Anyone here like topography maps? Like, it's exactly the same, almost exactly, from Boulder to Allens Park in distance and elevation change. So you can kind of put this imagination that they march the army up there, they take the city, they save her, and then it turns into Israel, where Jesus gets born, and we celebrate tonight. What the heck does that have to do with Christmas? Well, yeah, the Bible remembers Rahab a few times. There's a book near the end. It's kind of one of the longer ones in all the little short ones at the end, called Hebrews. In Hebrews chapter 11, some Bibles, yours might have this little subtitle in there. It's called this chapter, The Examples of Faith. And it's kind of a hall of fame from the Old Testament. And on the 31st verse, it was by faith that Rahab the prostitute was not destroyed with the people in her city. She gets in the hall of fame. And then in James, this is the younger brother of Jesus, he wrote a little letter. That one's in there, another little short one. A lot of us know the verse in there about faith without good works is just dead faith. It's empty. It's meaningless. Well, if you keep reading, 8 verses later, James says, Rahab the prostitute is another example. She was shown to be right with God by her actions. And again, what the heck does that have to do with Christmas? Well, let me read you the most boring part of the Bible. Anyone ever read their iTunes, like a terms and conditions? No one reads that stuff. No one ever reads this stuff. I'm going to read it fast. Let me get some of this. This is the record of the ancestors of Jesus. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob. Jacob was the father of Judah and his brothers. Judah was the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar. Tamar is a great story. Not a prostitute, but she's got some stuff messed up. Perez was the father of Hezron. Hezron was the father of Ram. Ram was the father of Abinadab. Abinadab was the father of Nahshon. Nahshon was the father of Salam. Salmon was the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. Boaz was the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. Obed was the father of Jesse. Jesse was the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother was Bathsheba, the widow of Uriah. She had some stuff going on too. Solomon was the father of Rehoboam. Rehoboam was the father of Abijah. Abijah was the father of Asa. Asa was the father of Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat was the father of Joram. Joram was the father of Uzziah. Uzziah was the father of Jotham. Jotham was the father of Asa. Asa was the father of Yes. You get the idea. This goes all the way down to Jacob was the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary. Mary gave birth to Jesus, who is called the Messiah. Did you hear what the verses didn't say? Did you catch it? It's harder to hear what I don't say than what I do say. Let me read the key verse again. Salmon was the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. In Joshua, the book in the Bible, in Hebrews, in James, everywhere else, and I've said her name as Rahab the prostitute. Now when Jesus gets involved, she's just Rahab, great-grandmother of a king, ancestor of Jesus, the Christ. It's as though with Jesus, the past doesn't hold the same right to define who we are. It's as though with Jesus, when we welcome God into the world, the mistakes we do and the things people do to us no longer has the power to determine the value that we're worth. It's as though the Christmas story is that God can do amazing things even from the most broken lives. When we remember back to the whole Christmas story, we're inspired to remember that no darkness in the world is so dark that the light will not break through. No darkness in your life is so dark that the light will not shine within. And the baby Jesus is cute. We all like cute babies. We had a complete newborn here last service. We celebrate all that comes about with his personality and his mission. But the light shines even more brightly when we see his mother, an unwed teenager with a poor stepdad who works construction. And just as important, even if it doesn't show up in our nativity scenes with all the names you gave, just as important is the fulfillment of the ancient hopes and dreams that people had for peace and for love and for joy and for hope, the values that still call in our hearts. So what this day marks, more than all of that, is something about how our world is shaped. Our world is shaped just right that a light always points us out of whatever shadows that we put over one another and whatever shadows that we put over ourselves. The Christmas story tells us that you are meant for greater things than you would ever think possible. I call that God. You can call it whatever you want. But I consider how the world is shaped so much better than we ever think it is, so much better than the world tells us it is. When I consider that the world is built on redemption and built on love, not on power, not on guilt. When I consider that the world is built on hope and on community, not on judgment, not on competition. That's the good news of Christmas. And that is the bright light that points to beauty and to meaning in our world and in our lives. This night we gather to honor the good news and to spread that light. May it be so.